Can you imagine pouring your heart and your soul out into your business, but it's barely getting by? You're working tirelessly, but just nothing seems to work. And the thing is, you know you have a great product or a great service, but something's just missing. Luckily for us, that one thing is actually a lot more common nowadays than people think, and it's actually booming. We're in the attention economy, but with micro personal brands coming around and just personal branding being presented to us, I believe that there is a huge market capacity and just going to be a huge boom of businesses implementing this. And I just don't want all of you guys to be left behind, because I know people are thinking that this is going to be the next Bitcoin, when in reality it's probably not. And the cool thing about this is those who implement this properly will not just have the opportunity to make their businesses grow, but they will be able to change their lives entirely by helping other people change their lives as well. Apple, Coca-Cola, and basically all the biggest brands that we know in today's day and age have been implementing this for a long time, and they've been studying the art of branding as a whole. But there's two parts of branding. There is big brands branding and there is personal branding. Personal branding is essentially where we try to connect with humans, and it's basically putting branding around a person. While branding as a whole, corporate branding, is where they try to make a corporation or a brand more human. And personal branding is actually kind of the opposite. It's where we try to make ourselves seem more corporate and more business-like. So they're both two nexuses within the same coin, two sides to a coin. And the reason that these huge brands try to humanize themselves and they try to seem more human-like is because people buy from stories. And I don't really understand why us, well, at least the first couple of personal brands, were trying to seem more corporate, because the thing that makes people buy is the stories that these brands tell, or the stories that the personal brands tell. And the beauty about personal brands is that everyone has their own story. It's up to you as to how you actually monetize your story and how you tell your story. Brands allow you to share your story, which allows you to grow an audience, which in return allows for you to actually monetize that audience. But of course, prior to that, in my opinion, which is even more important than monetizing it, is building your relationship with your audience and building that trust with your audience. Therefore, businesses without brands, or businesses that just don't have any presence on social media or don't really have a story to tell, I personally believe will be suffering a lot more than you think. A huge thing is people think that having a logo is having a brand. That's just not true. Having a brand is the story and the message that your brand tells. In my opinion, it's a lot more than just having a logo. Let me ask you this. Would you trust a brand that you have never seen before, or someone who you've never met before? I'll give this example. You're going to buy a watch and you have two options. You have the option to buy a watch from a friend, or you have the option to buy a watch from someone who you don't really know. And the thing is, the catch is, the person who you don't really know actually has better watches at a better price. I know a lot of you might say, obviously I'd buy it from the other guy, but if your friend were to tell you, like, dang, bro, you're actually gonna do that to me? Of course, I know that there would be some people who would still say, you know what, fuck you, I'm gonna buy the watch from the other guy just because he has a better price. But there are also a large majority of people who would go for their friend simply just to support them. And that's exactly where the trust comes in. I guess my question to you is, would you buy a product or a service from a brand who doesn't really have a story? Probably not. Especially whenever you're looking for other options. I promise you will find another option which does have a story, which does align more with you as a whole, which in the end you will be choosing. But like I was saying, the reason for this being is because trust is everything whenever it comes to marketing. I know there are so many other different things that go into marketing, like psychology, emotions, but it really just all comes down to the first principle being trust. Without trust and without that confidence that you build with your audience, there will be no sales, there will be no monetization. It doesn't matter how good your product is, if your audience doesn't trust you or you come off as a scammer, it will be extremely difficult for you to actually be able to monetize it, which in the end is the main reason as to why people actually start brands, and which in the end is essentially the main reason as to why people start personal brands. A person who came from an ad and you try and pitch them directly has a 5% chance of closing, versus in comparison, a person who came from an ad, you sent them to a VSL, then they watch some of your content, they have a 50% chance of closing. Versus in comparison, someone who came from an ad, went to your profile, looked at all your videos, saw about 2 hours worth of your content, then you booked a call with them, and then you gave them free value, has about an 80% chance of closing. So if you can argue that trust isn't the biggest thing and the biggest piece of leverage when it comes to marketing and actually being able to close people, tell me what is. Iman, Gadzhi, Hormozi, and basically all of the biggest brands have been doing this for such a long time. Iman Gadzhi's been doing this for damn near 7 years without him even realizing that he was building a brand. So imagine you, who knows about branding, who knows the steps, starts implementing it now and actually does it consciously. I promise you, I'm not saying you might surpass Iman, which by all means some of us will. Imagine someone who actually has the consciousness on building a brand and actually takes the right steps to build a brand. I promise you will make a killing from it. And Hormozi realized that he needed a brand in order for him to actually be able to compete with some of the biggest equity firms, because one of the biggest problems that a lot of these private equity firms face is lead flow. And what is one of the best ways of getting lead flow? having an audience, especially whenever you build that audience trust, which Hormozi has done a splendid job of doing by giving them so much value. I promise you, they're having businesses who have gone from probably doing around a couple $100,000 a year to implementing Hormozi strategies and getting to $3 million a year, which is Alex Hormozi's ideal customer profile. And I promise you, they are willing to throw money at Alex Hormozi to work with them, simply because Alex Hormozi is basically the reason as to why they were able to get the $3 million, simply from all the value that he gave. And for those of you who are serious about learning about branding and growing with YouTube, I actually made a doc or a free PDF that I kind of borrowed from Mr. Beast and some of the other biggest people, such as Iman, Gadzhi, Alex Hormozi. All the strategies that they use, I've put it into this document that I made just for you guys. So if you are interested in that, all you have to do is fill out the form in the description, and then you'll get emailed right to your email. And another thing that I didn't mention in this video is, in order for you to actually start building a brand, you have to stop caring. And I actually made a video just about that. So if you're interested in that, I would recommend for you to check this video out, or don't. I don't really care. Peace.